Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now let's dive into today's story. Dominic Hobbs adjusted his silk tie as he stepped out of his Tesla Model S. A bouquet of red roses nestled in the crook of his arm. The corner of his mouth twitched into a satisfied smile as he thought about surprising Carla for their anniversary. 8 years of marriage, and he still felt that spark of excitement when thinking about coming home to her. His phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Chun about their latest medical device prototype. Dominic quickly typed a response, his fingers dancing across the screen with practiced efficiency. The preliminary tests had exceeded expectations, and another patent would soon join his impressive portfolio. At 35, he had already revolutionized 3 different aspects of medical technology, earning both fortune and acclaim in the process. The rose's delicate fragrance reminded him of their wedding day. Carla had been radiant, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders as she walked down the aisle. Now, after years of fertility treatments at her own clinic, they had their precious twins. Anthony and Grace were everything he'd ever wanted in children. Brilliant, kind, and determined. In a few months, they would graduate high school, both already accepted to prestigious universities. Dominic pulled out his keys, then paused. The front door was unlocked. Carla usually kept it secured, even when she was home. He pushed it open slowly, wondering if she'd been distracted by work. The house was quiet, save for the distant murmur of voices from her home office. His footsteps were silent on the imported Italian marble as he approached, intending to surprise her. But then Carla's voice, tinged with an unfamiliar tone, made him freeze mid-stride. The fertility treatments never failed, Raymond. Her words were followed by a light, musical laugh that sent an unexpected chill down Dominic's spine. We used your frozen sperm from college. The twins are yours. Dominic still has no idea. The roses slipped from Dominic's grasp, but he caught them before they hit the floor. His hand clenched around the stems, thorns digging into his palm. The pain barely registered as a deep, masculine chuckle crackled through what must have been a phone speaker. And now he's making you the sole beneficiary? The man, Raymond, sounded amused. Your father's plan worked perfectly. Daddy always knows best. Carla's voice dripped with satisfaction. Poor Dominic. He's been so wonderful, really. Sometimes I almost feel guilty. Almost. Raymond's tone was teasing. Well, you know me. I've always been my father's daughter. Speaking of which, Gordon wants us to move forward with Phase 2. Are you ready? Baby, I've been ready since college. Just say the word, and I'll make sure everything's in place. The gambling debts are just for show, remember? Your father's connections made sure I never actually lost a dime. Dominic's free hand curled into a fist, his wedding ring suddenly feeling like a brand against his skin. The thorns had pierced deeper now, drops of blood staining his crisp white shirt cuff. He welcomed the pain. It helped him focus, helped him maintain his composure as his world imploded. I should go, Carla said. Dominic will be home soon. We're supposed to have a romantic anniversary dinner. She laughed again, the sound now grating against Dominic's ears like broken glass. He's taking me to L'Espalier. Probably going to give me that ridiculously expensive necklace I accidentally discovered in his study. You always did have expensive taste. That's why your father knew you needed someone like Dominic. At least until we were ready. And now we are. One more year, Raymond. Once the twins are settled in college, and I've secured the last of the assets, we can finally be together. Properly this time. Dominic stood motionless, his mind racing, yet eerily calm. Every moment of the past 8 years began to shift, realigning themselves into a new, horrifying pattern. The fertility clinic where he'd first met Carla at a medical conference. Gordon's immediate warmth and mentorship. The years of failed treatments, followed by a miraculous success. The twins' dark eyes that he'd always attributed to Carla's genes. He thought about Anthony's passion for extreme sports, so different from his own methodical nature. Grace's impulsive creativity that had always seemed to come from nowhere. 1,000 tiny details that had never quite fit suddenly clicked into place. I love you, Carla was saying, her voice soft and genuine in a way it had never been with him. "Call me tonight? Count on it, sweetheart. Give the kids a hug for me, even if they don't know they're mine." The call ended, and Dominic could hear Carla humming happily. The sound of her chair rolling back spurred him into action. Silent as death, he retreated to the front door, opened and closed it with deliberate noise. "Honey," he called out, his voice perfectly normal. "Are you home?" "In my office." Carla's response was bright, innocent. Dominic looked down at the roses, blood-stained and crushed. He dropped them into the decorative trash bin by the door and pulled a small box from his pocket. The necklace she'd discovered, diamond and platinum, $100,000 worth of what he now knew was just another prop in their elaborate charade. "Happy anniversary, darling." He strode into her office, a practiced smile on his face. Carla turned, her perfect features lighting up with practiced delight. "You're early." And empty-handed, she pouted playfully. Dominic held up the box, watching as her eyes sparkled with manufactured joy. "What'd I forget?" She rose gracefully, wrapping her arms around his neck. "Never. You're perfect." She kissed him, and it took every ounce of his considerable self-control not to recoil. "Let me just freshen up, and we can head to dinner." As she disappeared into their master suite, Dominic sat in her office chair, still warm from her presence. His eyes fell on the family photo on her desk, him, Carla, and the twins at their 15th birthday party. His fingers traced the faces of Anthony and Grace. Not his children, never his children, but they were innocent in all this. They didn't deserve to have their lives shattered by their mother's betrayal. His phone buzzed again. Dr. Chin was impressed with his latest innovation, a revolutionary AI diagnostic system that could detect medical fraud with unprecedented accuracy. Dominic had been developing it in secret, separate from his public projects. Now he knew why his subconscious had driven him in that direction. "Ready?" Carla reappeared, stunning in a red dress that perfectly matched the shade of the discarded roses. "Shall we?" Dominic stood, offering his arm with a smile. "Of course. We have so much to celebrate." As they walked to the car, he began to plan. The traits that had made him successful, patience, attention to detail, and an absolute commitment to his goals, would serve him well in what was to come. Carla, Gordon, and Raymond had orchestrated an elaborate betrayal. Now they would learn that some games were better left unplayed. The perfect husband was dead. In his place, a man of cold calculation and ruthless determination was born, and he would make them pay for every lie, every manipulation, every moment of false happiness they had forced him to live. The next morning, Dominic sat in his private office at the research facility, surrounded by screens displaying various medical records, financial statements, and surveillance footage. The anniversary dinner had been flawless. He'd played his role to perfection, even managing to appear appropriately disappointed when Carla claimed a headache before their usual anniversary celebrations. Now, as lines of code scrolled across his monitors, a different kind of intimacy was being revealed. Patient records, clinic schedules, staff rotations. All the dirty secrets of Boston's most prestigious fertility clinic were laid bare before him. "Dr. Hobbs?" His assistant's voice came through the intercom. "There's a Patricia Velez here to see you. She says it's about the clinic audit." Dominic's fingers paused over the keyboard. He hadn't requested any audit. "Send her in." The woman who entered was in her early 50s, her nurse's scrubs pristine, her posture rigid with tension. "Dr. Hobbs, thank you for seeing me. I work at your wife's clinic. Please sit." Dominic gestured to the chair across from his desk, studying her carefully. "I wasn't aware of any audit." Patricia's hands twisted in her lap. "There isn't one. Not officially. But there should be." She glanced at the door, then leaned forward. "I've worked at the clinic for 20 years. I was there when your wife did her residency, when her father was chief of medicine. I've seen things, irregular things." Dominic's expression remained neutral, but his interest sharpened. "What kind of regularities?" "Missing records, unauthorized access to stored samples, discrepancies in treatment documentation." She pulled a small USB drive from her pocket. "I've been keeping track, but I never had enough proof. Until last week." "What changed?" "I overheard Dr. Gordon Wilkins on the phone. He was talking about how well the plan had worked, how no one would ever know about the switch. Patricia's voice trembled. He mentioned your name, Dr. Hobbs, and something about final preparations. Dominic accepted the USB drive, his mind racing. Why are you telling me this? Because 20 years ago, my sister went through fertility treatments at the clinic. Her baby's features never matched her husband's. Dr. Wilkins dismissed their concerns, but she straightened her spine. I can't prove what happened to them, but I can help prove what's happening now. A tap of his keyboard brought up the clinic's employee records. Patricia Velez, head nurse, exemplary record, passed over for promotion multiple times despite recommendations. And there it was, her sister's case, buried deep in the archive files. Ms. Velez, what would you say to a more thorough investigation? Off the books, of course. Her eyes lit up with sudden hope. I would say it's about time, Doctor. For the next several hours, they pored over the data Patricia had collected. Names, dates, procedures, all meticulously documented. A pattern emerged, one that made Dominic's blood boil. Gordon Wilkins hadn't just orchestrated his daughter's deception. He'd been manipulating records and samples for years, playing God with countless families. There's more, Patricia said, pulling up a particular set of records. Dr. Wilkins introduced your wife to Raymond Russo during their college years. They dated seriously until Raymond's gambling debts became public knowledge. Dominic's jaw tightened. The gambling debts that were just for show? Patricia looked startled. You know about that? I'm learning more every minute. Dominic's voice was ice. Tell me about Raymond Russo. He was a medical student, brilliant but reckless. Or so it seemed. He dropped out after the gambling scandal, but he still had friends at the clinic, including your wife. Patricia hesitated. Dr. Hobbs, there's something else you should know. The day of your fertility treatment, I saw Dr. Koch, Carla, access the sample storage room. She wasn't authorized to handle specimens for her own family members, but Dr. Wilkins overrode the security protocols. Dominic leaned back, his expression dangerous. And you didn't report this because... I tried. The board dismissed it. Every member owed Dr. Wilkins some favor or another. The man's connected to half the medical community in Boston. She met his gaze steadily. But you're more powerful than he is now, aren't you? A cold smile curved Dominic's lips. Ms. Velez, I believe this is the beginning of a mutually beneficial partnership. Over the next few days, Dominic built his case with surgical precision. His AI system, originally designed to detect medical fraud patterns, proved invaluable in connecting the dots. Gordon's network of influence was vast, but it had weaknesses. Every favor granted left a trail. Every manipulation created a vulnerability. He hired private investigators to track Raymond's movements, discovering regular meetings with Gordon at an exclusive club in Back Bay. Financial records revealed a complex web of transactions. The gambling debts had indeed been fabricated, part of a long-term plan to make Raymond appear unsuitable until the right moment. But the most damning evidence came from Gordon's own files. Patricia's access codes, combined with Dominic's technological expertise, unveiled years of correspondence between Gordon, Carla, and Raymond. The plan had been in motion before Dominic ever met Carla. Gordon had identified him as the perfect mark, brilliant, wealthy, and most importantly, devoted enough to overlook any inconsistencies out of love. Late one evening, as Dominic compiled the evidence, his office door opened. Carla stood there looking concerned. Darling, you've been working so late recently. I'm worried about you. Dominic smiled, closing his laptop. Just focus on a new project, something revolutionary. She moved behind him, massaging his shoulders. You work too hard. Why don't you come home? The twins are asking about you. The twins. His chest tightened, but his voice remained steady. How are they? Stressed about graduation. Grace is worried about her valedictorian speech. Carla's fingers worked at a knot in his neck. Anthony's been talking about taking a gap year, maybe doing some traveling, just like Raymond had, before his gambling problems surfaced. Dominic wondered how he'd never seen the similarities before. I'll be home soon, he promised. Just a few more things to finish up. Carla kissed his cheek. Don't be too late. And don't forget about the board meeting tomorrow. Daddy's expecting you to support his new initiative. I wouldn't miss it. Dominic watched her leave, then reopened his laptop. On the screen, transfer documents awaited his signature. By morning, his most valuable patents would be safely hidden in a maze of shell companies. Let Gordon present his initiative. Soon, he would learn what it meant to truly lose everything. The law office of Vera Stratton occupied the top floor of a downtown high-rise, its minimalist decor a stark contrast to its owner's reputation for maximum damage. Dominic sat across from the attorney, watching as she reviewed the evidence he'd compiled. Impressive, Vera said finally, setting down the last document. Most men in your position would have confronted their wives immediately, made a scene, lost any advantage they might have had. I'm not most men. Dominic's voice was cold. Can you do what I need? Vera's perfectly manicured nails drummed once on her desk. I could do better. Your father-in-law's reach in the medical community? I know exactly how far it extends. More importantly, I know where it stops. She smiled, revealing teeth that reminded Dominic of a shark. You're not the first person they've tried to destroy, Dr. Hobbs. Just the first one capable of destroying them back. For the next hour, they crafted a strategy that would make Machiavelli proud. Every asset would be protected, every escape route blocked. Vera's network of contacts would ensure that when the strike came, it would be both legal and devastating. One question, Vera said as they finalized the details. The twins, are you sure you want to tell them everything? Dominic's expression hardened. They're 17, old enough to handle the truth, old enough to make their own choices. And if they choose him, they won't. Dominic's certainty was absolute. Raymond and Carla didn't raise them. I did. Every science fair project, every broken heart, every triumph and failure, I was there. Biology doesn't make a father. Vera nodded, satisfied. Very well. I'll have everything in place before graduation. Speaking of which, my sources tell me that Raymond Russo has booked a flight to Boston for that weekend. Perfect. Dominic stood straightening his suit. Let's make sure he receives a proper welcome. The next few weeks passed in a carefully orchestrated dance. By day, Dominic played the devoted husband and father, attending Anthony's baseball games and helping Grace polish her valedictorian speech. By night, he worked with Patricia to document every instance of medical fraud at the clinic. The evidence was damning. Gordon hadn't just manipulated Dominic's case. Under Patricia's guidance, they uncovered dozens of similar incidents spanning 2 decades. Couples whose fertility treatments had been secretly altered, records modified, and lives irrevocably changed without their knowledge. He played God, Patricia whispered one evening as they reviewed another suspicious file. All these families. He played devil, Dominic corrected, his voice hard. And now he'll pay the price. Working late became his new normal. Carla didn't question it. She assumed he was focused on his latest medical innovation. In reality, Dominic was systematically dismantling the life they'd built together. Each night, after she went to bed, he transferred small portions of their joint assets into untraceable accounts. Vera had established a complex network of shell companies, each designed to protect his intellectual property. The AI diagnostic system, his secret project, was nearly complete. He'd coded a backdoor into the clinic's medical record system, allowing him to monitor every communication between Gordon, Carla, and Raymond. Their confidence in their plan's success had made them careless. They discussed details over email, over phone calls, leaving a trail that would prove their undoing. One evening, 2 weeks before graduation, Dominic sat in his home office, reviewing the final preparations. The twins were at a pre-graduation party, and Carla was at her weekly book club, which his investigators had confirmed was actually a standing meeting with Raymond at a discreet hotel outside the city. His phone buzzed. Patricia. Dr. Hobbs. Her voice was urgent. Gordon knows something's wrong. He's been asking questions about access files, about missing records. He called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. Dominic smiled coldly. Let him. Everything he needs to track is already gone. How are the preparations on your end? Ready. The nurses you identified, the ones who suspected but were afraid to speak up, they're all willing to testify. With immunity, of course, Vera's arranged it. Federal prosecutors love medical fraud cases, especially ones involving prominent figures. He paused, hearing the front door open. "Keep me posted." Carla's heels clicked on the marble floors. "Dominic, are you home?" "In my office," he called back, quickly switching his screens to display innocent medical research data. She appeared in his doorway, looking flushed and happy from her book club meeting. The sight of her, knowing where she'd been, who she'd been with, made his stomach turn. But his face showed only warm welcome. "How was your evening?" he asked, watching her create another lie. "Oh, fascinating discussion. We're reading The Great Gatsby, all about deception and the American dream." She laughed, the sound grating against his ears. How fitting, if she only knew. The next morning, Dominic attended Gordon's emergency board meeting. He sat quietly as his father-in-law raged about security breaches and missing files, about the need for a complete system audit. Other board members shifted uncomfortably, aware of their own compromised positions in Gordon's network of favors. "Someone is targeting us," Gordon declared, his distinguished face red with anger. "We must find out who." Dominic raised his hand, the perfect picture of concerned confusion. "Perhaps I could help? My new AI system is designed specifically for medical data security. I'd be happy to implement it at the clinic." Gordon's face lit up. "Excellent idea, son. Always knew I could count on you." Later, in his private office, Dominic allowed himself a moment of dark amusement. The AI system would indeed be implemented, but not to protect their secrets. It would be the key to exposing them all. The final pieces were falling into place. The graduation ceremony was a week away. Raymond's flight was confirmed. The evidence was secured in multiple locations. Vera had the legal documents prepared. Patricia and her network of witnesses were ready. Dominic opened his desk drawer and removed a small box. Inside were two identical packages, wrapped in silver paper with the twins' names written in his precise handwriting. Each contained a complete record of their true parentage, along with irrefutable evidence of the conspiracy that had shaped their lives. His phone chimed with a text from Carla. "Don't forget dinner with Daddy tonight. He wants to discuss making you head of research at the clinic." Another piece of their plan, no doubt. Another step toward whatever fate they had designed for him. Little did they know, he had designed a very different future. Dominic closed the box and locked it away. One more week of pretense. One more week of playing the devoted husband, the dutiful son-in-law, the unknowing victim of their elaborate scheme. Then, on graduation day, as his children, because regardless of biology, they would always be his children, stepped into their future, he would ensure that Gordon, Carla, and Raymond's carefully constructed world would crumble to dust. The perfect life had been a perfect lie. But Dominic Hobbs was no longer interested in perfection. He was interested in justice. And justice, he had learned, was best served cold, calculated, and without mercy. Let them enjoy their final days of triumph. The reckoning was coming, and when it did, they would learn that they had underestimated the very man they had sought to destroy. In trying to play him for a fool, they had created their own destruction. And Dominic would watch it all burn, knowing that every flame was sparked by their own hubris. The stage was set. Act one of their elaborate deception was drawing to a close. But the final act, his act, was about to begin, and unlike their carefully scripted drama, his would end not with a whimper, but with a devastating bang that would echo through Boston's medical community for years to come. The graduation ceremony buzzed with excitement as hundreds of proud parents filled the auditorium. Dominic sat in the front row beside Carla, his face a mask of paternal pride. Gordon occupied the seat on Carla's other side, occasionally leaning over to whisper something that made his daughter smile conspiratorially. In the row behind them, Raymond Russo sat with other family friends, his presence explained away as a colleague of Gordon's. Dominic had noted his arrival with cold satisfaction. The final player had taken his place on the board. And now, the principal announced, our valedictorian, Grace Hobbs. Grace stepped to the podium, resplendent in her graduation robes. Her dark eyes, Raymond's eyes, swept across the audience as she began her speech about truth, integrity, and the future that awaited them all. Dominic's hand tightened around the two silver-wrapped packages in his lap. Inside each was a USB drive containing irrefutable evidence. DNA test results, medical records, recorded conversations, financial trails. Everything needed to shatter the carefully constructed lies that had shaped the twins' lives. "Your daughter is remarkable," Gordon murmured, reaching past Carla to pat Dominic's shoulder. "You must be so proud." "I am," Dominic replied, his voice steady. Of both of them, Anthony sat among his classmates, fidgeting with his graduation cap, another habit he shared with his biological father. The thought no longer stung. These past weeks had transformed Dominic's pain into pure, crystalline purpose. As Grace concluded her speech to thunderous applause, Carla dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. "She's perfect," she whispered. "They both are." "Yes," Dominic agreed. "Perfect timing." The ceremony proceeded according to tradition. Names were called, diplomas were distributed, photos were taken. Through it all, Dominic played his role flawlessly. The proud father, the loving husband, the grateful son-in-law. Finally, as families gathered for the post-graduation celebration, Dominic approached the twins with their gifts. "I have something special for each of you," he said, watching their faces light up with genuine affection. "Dad, you didn't have to," Grace protested, even as she eagerly accepted her package. Anthony grabbed his with typical enthusiasm. "Is it car keys? Please tell me it's car keys." "Better," Dominic said softly. "It's the truth." Before they could question his cryptic response, he turned to Carla. "I need to step out for a moment. Business call about the new AI system." "Now," she frowned. "Can it wait?" "It's the Singapore investors. Time zones." He kissed her cheek, inhaling her expensive perfume one last time. "I'll be right back." Gordon raised his glass of champagne. "Don't be too long, son. We're about to toast to the future." "Oh, I wouldn't miss that for the world." Dominic walked away, each step measured and deliberate. Behind him, he heard the twins beginning to unwrap their packages. He counted silently. 3, 2, 1. Grace's gasp cut through the celebratory chatter. Anthony's "what the hell" followed immediately after. Dominic didn't turn around. He had memorized the contents of those files. He knew exactly what they were seeing. Photos of Raymond and Carla from college. Medical records showing Raymond's sperm donation. DNA test results proving paternity. Transcripts of conversations discussing the deception. Bank statements revealing the elaborate financial scheme. He reached the exit just as Carla's voice rose in panic. "Grace? Anthony? What's wrong?" The chaos erupted behind him like a symphony he had personally composed. He heard Gordon's authoritative voice trying to take control of the situation. Raymond's deeper tones rising in alarm. And cutting through it all, the twins' increasing distress as their world unraveled. Security camera footage? That was Grace, her valedictorian's composure cracking. From the clinic? "Mom, what is this?" These dates, Anthony's voice shook with rage. "This was planned? All of it." Dominic stepped into the elevator, pressing the button for the parking garage. His phone buzzed with a message from Vera. Phase 1 complete. Media contacts in position. Another text followed, this one from Patricia. Federal investigators moving in. Hospital board members already singing. The elevator doors opened to reveal his waiting car. Not the Tesla registered in his name, but an unmarked vehicle arranged by Vera. His new identity, carefully constructed over the past weeks, waited in a briefcase on the passenger seat. His phone exploded with notifications. Carla, Gordon, the twins. Dozens of missed calls and messages within seconds. He scrolled through them with clinical detachment as his driver pulled away from the school. "Where is he?" Gordon's text demanded. "Please," from Carla. "We need to talk about this." From Grace. "Dad, I don't understand. Call me." Anthony had simply written, "Why?" Dominic switched off his phone. They would find their answers soon enough, but not from him. Not yet. The media would break the story within hours. Federal investigators would descend on the clinic by morning. Every carefully planted piece of evidence would surface at precisely the right moment, each revelation more damaging than the last. His driver took a circuitous route to a private airfield outside the city. As Boston receded behind them, Dominic allowed himself a moment to appreciate the elegance of his exit. No confrontations, no melodramatic scenes, just the cold, precise execution of justice served at absolute zero. Silicon Valley thrummed with a different energy than Boston. Here, under the alias Adrian Snyder, Dominic found himself surrounded by people who measured worth not by family names or social connections, but by the power of ideas. His temporary office at a prestigious tech incubator overlooked the heart of the innovation district. 6 months had passed since his departure from Boston, though the aftershocks of his revelation continued to reverberate through the medical community. "Mr. Snyder?" His assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Bethany Drew is here for your meeting. Send her in." The woman who entered moved with the confident grace of someone accustomed to making billion-dollar decisions before breakfast. Bethany Drew's reputation in venture capital circles was legendary, not just for her success rate, but for her uncanny ability to spot revolutionary technologies. "Adrian," she extended her hand. "Or should I say, Dr. Hobbs?" Dominic's expression didn't change. "You've done your homework. I wouldn't be very good at my job if I hadn't." Bethany took a seat without waiting for an invitation. "Your AI diagnostic system is remarkable. But what interests me more is what you did with it in Boston. And what exactly do you think I did? You didn't just expose fraud. You dismantled an entire network of corruption from the inside out. Clean, precise, untraceable." Her eyes glittered with appreciation. "Until you wanted it traced." Dominic leaned back, studying her with new interest. Most people focus on the scandal itself, the salacious details, the fallen pillars of Boston society. I'm not most people. Bethany pulled out a tablet, calling up a series of news articles. Gordon Wilkins, once the king of Boston medicine, now under federal investigation. His daughter Carla, stripped of her medical license. Raymond Russo facing fraud charges. And you, she smiled. You turned your pain into a weapon that cut them all down without leaving a single fingerprint. You seem well informed about my personal affairs. Because they're not just personal, are they? They're proof of concept. She set down her tablet. Your AI system didn't just detect fraud. It predicted patterns of behavior, analyzed relationships, identified vulnerabilities. Do you have any idea what that could mean for healthcare? Dominic allowed himself a small smile. I have some thoughts on the matter. I bet you do. Bethany leaned forward. Here's what I'm offering. Full funding. Complete autonomy. A dedicated team of the best minds in Silicon Valley. We'll build your system into something that could revolutionize medical oversight worldwide. And what do you get out of this partnership? Besides the obvious financial returns? She paused, something darker flickering across her expression. Let's just say I have my own reasons for wanting to see certain medical institutions face proper scrutiny. Dominic's AI system, running a background analysis on a secondary screen, had already compiled a dossier on Bethany Drew. He glanced at it now. Harvard MBA, stellar investment record, and, most interestingly, a sister who had lost her medical practice after questioning irregularities at a hospital owned by none other than Raymond Russo's former business partners. Tell me about your sister, he said quietly. Bethany's composure cracked slightly. You know, my system knows. That's what it's designed to do. Find connections. Expose truths. He stood, walking to the window. Your sister discovered financial fraud at her hospital. Tried to report it. Was discredited and ruined instead by the same people who helped Raymond Russo fake his gambling debts. Bethany's voice carried years of controlled rage. I've spent the last decade building the resources to fight back. But you found a better way? Dominic turned back to her. Not better. More comprehensive. For the next hour, they discussed possibilities. Bethany's network of connections could accelerate his plans exponentially. Her understanding of regulatory frameworks would help navigate the complex healthcare landscape. And her personal motivation, that aligned perfectly with his own drive for systematic justice. One condition, Dominic said as they finalized the details. The company operates under my rules. No compromises. No half measures. Agreed. Bethany extended her hand again. Welcome to Silicon Valley, Adrian Snyder. Let's change the world. Not change it. He corrected his grip firm. Purify it. Within weeks, MedAI solutions took shape. Dominic assembled a team of brilliant outsiders. People who, like him, had seen the corruption in traditional medical institutions and chosen to fight back. His AI system evolved rapidly, incorporating new datasets and refining its analytical capabilities. The irony wasn't lost on him. Gordon and Carla had tried to use his medical expertise for their own gain. Now that same expertise, transformed by betrayal and honed by revenge, would become their ultimate undoing. The MedAI Solutions headquarters rose like a fortress of glass and steel in the heart of Silicon Valley. 1 year after his meeting with Bethany, Dominic stood in his executive office, watching his creation grow. Multiple screens displayed real-time data from hospitals across the country. His AI system had already identified and helped expose 3 major medical fraud operations. Each success brought more clients, more data, and more opportunities for justice. The Boston numbers are in, Bethany announced, entering without knocking, a habit he had come to appreciate for its directness. Gordon's old network is crumbling. 3 more board members indicted this morning. Dominic nodded, satisfaction coursing through him. And the clinic? Bankrupt. The class action lawsuits from former patients destroyed them. She pulled up a detailed report on her tablet. Your friend Patricia made an excellent witness. Her documentation was flawless. She's been rewarded appropriately. New position at Stanford Medical Center. Head of Ethics and Compliance. Bethany's smile was sharp. She's implementing our AI system there as we speak. The mention of Stanford triggered another set of data streams on Dominic's monitors. His eyes narrowed as patterns emerged. Your sister's old hospital. The ownership chain leads back there. Bethany moved closer, studying the displays. Raymond's partners. They've been quiet lately. Too quiet. Dominic's fingers flew across his keyboard, directing the AI to dig deeper. They're planning something? A counterattack? No. His expression darkened as the analysis crystallized. They're trying to hide their connection to a larger network. Hospitals across New England, all linked through shell companies and offshore accounts. Bethany's breath caught. The same pattern they used to destroy my sister. But this time, Dominic said, his voice carrying the cold certainty of an executioner's blade, we're ready for them. The AI system continued to compile data, revealing a complex web of corruption that stretched from Boston to New York and beyond. Each connection represented another opportunity for justice, another chance to cleanse the medical system of its parasites. I want to buy them, Dominic declared, his decision absolute. The hospitals? Bethany raised an eyebrow. All of them? Every single one. He turned to face her fully, including the one where Carla and Gordon built their reputation. We'll acquire them through different subsidiaries, implement our system, and let it do what it does best. Expose the truth. No. His smile was terrifying in its calmness. Force it into the light where it can't hide anymore. Bethany considered the implications, her strategic mind already calculating moves and counter-moves. They'll fight back. These people have powerful friends. Let them fight. Dominic's voice carried absolute conviction. Every attempt to stop us will only provide more evidence of their corruption. The AI system will document everything. We'll build a case so comprehensive that not even their political connections can save them. They worked late into the night, planning their expansion. Bethany's financial expertise combined with Dominic's technological brilliance created an unstoppable force. Hospital by hospital, they would dismantle the corrupt empire that had protected people like Gordon and Raymond for decades. You know, Bethany said as they finalized their strategy, most people would have been satisfied with exposing the original betrayal. Taking down Gordon and Carla would have been enough. Most people think too small. Dominic's eyes never left his screens. This was never just about them. They were symptoms of a deeper disease. And I don't believe in treating symptoms. You believe in eradicating the disease entirely. Precisely. He turned to her, his expression intense. They thought they could use me, manipulate me, make me an unwitting part of their schemes. Instead, I'll use everything they taught me about deception to destroy not just them, but everyone like them. Bethany nodded, understanding perfectly. This wasn't revenge anymore. It had evolved into something larger, more significant, a crusade to transform the entire medical industry. As their plan took shape, Dominic allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. Gordon, Carla, and Raymond had wanted to steal his fortune. Instead, they had given him something far more valuable, a purpose, a mission, a destiny. MedAI Solutions would become more than just a company. It would be a weapon, a tool for justice, a means of systematic purification. And when they were finished, the corrupt empire that had protected betrayers and frauds would be replaced by something pure, transparent, and absolutely unforgiving of deception. The Boston Healthcare Innovation Conference hummed with activity as tech entrepreneurs and medical professionals networked over expensive coffee. In a quiet corner, Carla Koch adjusted her pharmaceutical sales representative badge, her once confident posture now carrying the weight of desperation. 8 years had transformed her from one of Boston's premier fertility specialists into someone who couldn't even get past hospital security without clearance. Her designer clothes had been replaced by off-the-rack business attire. Her prestigious office traded for a territory car and quarterly sales quotas. "Did you hear?" A younger rep whispered nearby. MedAI Solution CEO is giving the keynote. They say he never makes public appearances. Carla's attention sharpened. MedAI Solutions had been systematically acquiring hospitals across New England, implementing their revolutionary fraud detection system. The same system that had helped federal investigators uncover 3 more cases of fertility fraud in the past year alone. "Ladies and gentlemen," the conference director announced, "please welcome the CEO of MedAI Solutions, Adrian Snyder." The figure that stepped onto the stage caused Carla's coffee cup to slip from suddenly nerveless fingers. Though his hair was styled differently, his fashion more Silicon Valley than Boston medical elite, she would know that face anywhere. "Dominic, thank you," he began, his voice carrying the same measured authority she remembered, "for joining us today as we discuss the future of medical accountability." Carla's hand trembled as she reached for her phone, but security personnel were already moving to block the exits. Of course, he would have planned for everything. 8 years ago, Dominic continued, a series of medical fraud cases rocked this very community. Today, I'm here to announce that MedAI Solutions has developed a comprehensive system to ensure such breaches of trust can never happen again. His eyes swept the audience, pausing briefly on Carla. The look held no emotion, no recognition, as if she were less than a stranger. In the front row, 2 young professionals sat forward with intense interest. Grace's dark hair was shorter now, styled in a professional bob. Anthony's features had matured into a striking resemblance to Raymond, but his expressions, his mannerisms, were all Dominic. "I'd like to introduce our Chief Ethics Officer, Grace Hobbs, and our Head of Research, Anthony Hobbs." The twins stood to polite applause, their posture radiating confidence and purpose. They hadn't spoken to Carla in years, not since that devastating graduation day. Their few communications had been through lawyers, firmly rejecting Raymond's attempts at claiming parental rights. "Mom looks terrible," Grace murmured to Anthony as they retook their seats. "She's not our mother," Anthony replied quietly. "Just the woman who gave birth to us." Dominic's presentation continued, outlining MedAI's mission to transform medical oversight. Every word, every statistic, every example felt like a carefully aimed arrow at Carla's past. During the Q&A session, a reporter stood. "Mr. Snyder, your system has been instrumental in exposing several high-profile cases of medical fraud. What inspired its development?" "Personal experience," Dominic answered smoothly. "I witnessed firsthand how easily trust could be betrayed in medical institutions, how families could be destroyed by the very people sworn to help them." His gaze found Carla again, and this time there was something in it, not anger or hatred, but a cold, clinical satisfaction. She had taught him how to deceive. Now he had mastered the art and turned it against everything she and her father had built. After the presentation, Carla watched as the twins approached their father. Their embrace was genuine, their interaction easy and natural. They had chosen him, The man who had raised them, loved them, taught them his values of justice and accountability. Mrs. Koch. A security guard appeared at her elbow. I need to see your conference credentials. I have them right here. She fumbled with her badge. I'm afraid these sales representative passes don't cover the executive sessions. I'll have to escort you out. As she was led away, Carla caught one last glimpse of her former family. Grace was showing Dominic something on a tablet, her expression animated. Anthony had his father's proud smile as he looked on. They were happy, successful, whole, without her. The bright Boston sunshine felt like an interrogation lamp as she emerged onto the street. Her phone buzzed with a message from Raymond. He's back. We need to talk. But what was there to say? The man they had underestimated, the mark they had chosen for his brilliance and reliability, had transformed their own weapons into the instruments of their destruction. Raymond Russo paced his attorney's office, his once expensive suit hanging loosely on his frame. 8 years of legal battles had drained his resources and aged him beyond his years. This is our chance, he insisted, waving a folder of documents. MedAI Solutions has to have violated antitrust laws with these acquisitions. If we can prove Dominic Hobbs is really Adrian Snyder, show that this whole company was built on revenge. Stop. His lawyer's voice was tired. Mr. Russo, every attempt we've made to challenge them has backfired. Their paperwork is impeccable. Their corporate structure is bulletproof. And now what? Now we have evidence that your gambling debts weren't just fabricated for show. The feds found real losses, real debts, real connections to illegal operations. Raymond sank into a chair. That's impossible. Gordon arranged everything. It was all supposed to be a cover story. Well, it seems someone arranged for it to become very real. The lawyer closed his laptop. My advice? Drop this before you make things worse. But Raymond couldn't drop it. Dominic's return had reawakened all his old arrogance, his belief that he could outsmart anyone. That evening, he sent an encrypted email to an address he'd kept for emergencies. The response came within hours, my office. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. GW. Gordon Wilkins' home office, once a testament to medical prestige, now served as the boundaries of his house arrest. Electronic monitoring anklet visible beneath his tailored pants, he listened to Raymond's desperate plan with growing dismay. You want to blackmail him? Gordon's distinguished features creased with disbelief. The man who systematically destroyed everything we built? Think about it, Raymond pressed. We know things about his past, about his methods. If we threaten to expose how he orchestrated his disappearance. You fool! Gordon's voice cracked like a whip. He's already exposed everything. Every document, every conversation, every transaction. His AI system didn't just find evidence. It created a perfect map of corruption. Our corruption? There must be something. There's nothing. Gordon stood, anklet beeping in warning as he approached his movement boundary. Don't you understand? He's not hiding anything. Every accusation we could make, he's already proven and turned against us. The gambling debts you thought were fake? He made them real, created a paper trail leading right to your door. The offshore accounts we used to hide assets? He's tracked every penny. A knock at the door interrupted them. Gordon's home nurse, court-mandated supervision, entered with his morning medications. Dr. Wilkins, your daughter is here. Carla stepped in, her face pale. Daddy? Raymond? We need to talk about the conference. Gordon sank back into his chair. He's not done with us, is he? No. Carla's voice shook. The twins, they're working with him. They've been helping him build this case for years. Our own children, Raymond muttered. They were never ours. Carla's composure finally broke. We gave up any right to them the moment we decided to use them as pawns. Dominic raised them. Dominic loved them. We just used them. Gordon's nurse quietly left the room, but not before they all noticed her speaking into a phone in the hallway. Of course, she would be reporting to MedAI's oversight team. They were all being watched, all the time. I tried to make a deal, Gordon admitted heavily. Offered to expose other doctors involved in similar schemes. But he already had everything. Every name, every case, every detail. Raymond's phone buzzed. His lawyer. Federal agents just executed a search warrant at your apartment. Something about offshore gambling accounts and money laundering. As if on cue, Gordon's landline rang. His federal supervisor informed him that due to new evidence, his house arrest conditions were being reviewed. He might be facing actual prison time. Carla received an email from her pharmaceutical company. Due to new information about her past ethical violations, her employment was terminated effectively immediately. They stared at each other, these three architects of a scheme that had seemed so perfect 8 years ago. Their attempt to control one man's life had instead given him the motivation and means to destroy them completely. He never wanted our money, Gordon realized, his voice heavy with belated understanding. He wanted justice, and he built an entire system to ensure he got it. The Hobbs Foundation's inaugural gala transformed the Boston Museum of Science into a celebration of medical ethics and innovation. Dominic stood at the podium, Bethany beside him, as they announced their latest initiative, a nationwide program to support victims of medical fraud. Today, he concluded, we're not just launching a foundation. We're establishing a new standard for medical accountability. And I'm proud to announce that our first board members will be two people who understand firsthand the importance of this mission. My children, Grace and Anthony Hobbs. The twins joined them on stage, their presence drawing enthusiastic applause. In the years since the conference, they had become powerful advocates for medical ethics reform. Grace's legal expertise combined with Anthony's research background had helped shape MedAI Solutions' approach to justice. Dad, Grace whispered as they moved to the reception area. Channel 5 wants an interview about the fertility rights legislation. Dominic smiled, genuine warmth replacing his public persona. Handle it however you think best. I trust your judgment. Anthony was deep in conversation with a group of medical researchers, explaining how MedAI systems could protect patient rights while advancing legitimate research. He had his father's gift for innovation, tempered by a fierce commitment to ethical practices. They're remarkable, Bethany observed, joining Dominic at a quiet table. Both of them, they made their own choices, he replied. That's what matters. Their relationship had evolved naturally, built on shared experiences and a common mission. Bethany understood him in ways Carla never had. She saw his drive for justice not as a weakness to exploit, but as a strength to admire. Latest reports are in, she murmured, sliding a tablet toward him. Gordon's appeal was denied. He'll serve his full sentence. And Raymond? Found guilty on all counts. The gambling operation evidence was irrefutable. She touched his hand lightly. It's over, Dominic. They can't hurt anyone else. The twins joined them, bringing champagne. Grace's engagement ring caught the light. She was marrying a fellow advocate for medical ethics reform. Anthony had just received a prestigious research grant to study genetic privacy rights. To the future, Grace proposed, raising her glass. To family, Anthony added, his eyes meeting his father's. To truth, Bethany contributed. Dominic looked at these people who had chosen to stand with him, who understood that true justice wasn't about destruction, but about building something better from the ashes of betrayal. To all of it, he said simply. Later that evening, as the gala wound down, Dominic received one final report. Carla had left Boston, moving to a small town where no one knew her history. Raymond was beginning his prison sentence. Gordon, under house arrest, spent his days watching his legacy crumble as more of his former colleagues faced justice. But Dominic felt no satisfaction in their downfall. His revenge had transcended personal vindication. MedAI Solutions had revolutionized medical oversight, making it nearly impossible for others to suffer as he had. The Hobbs Foundation would ensure that victims of medical fraud receive support and justice. Grace appeared at his side. Ready to go, Dad? Anthony's giving us a preview of his new research over dinner. The whole family's waiting, Bethany added, joining them. Dominic looked at his daughter, brilliant, ethical, strong. At his son, innovative, principled, determined. At Bethany, his partner in both business and life. This was his legacy. Not the destruction of those who had betrayed him, but the creation of something meaningful from that betrayal. Yes, he said, taking Bethany's hand as Grace led the way. Let's go home. The man who had once believed in playing by the rules had indeed become someone who rewrote them. But he had done so not for revenge alone, but to protect others from experiencing the same betrayal. In the end, his greatest victory wasn't in destroying his enemies, but in building a family and a future stronger than any lie. Epilogue, 15 years later. The Massachusetts Correctional Institution for Women processed Carla Koch's release with the same efficiency that had marked her intake 7 years ago. Her designer clothes had long since been donated or sold, replaced by generic department store attire purchased by her court-appointed social worker. "Sign here, Ms. Koch," the processing officer instructed, sliding the final release forms across the desk. "Your probation officer's contact information is included in your release packet." Carla's hand trembled slightly as she signed. At 58, her once perfect manicure was replaced by practical, short nails. Prison had stripped away more than her freedom. It had taken her carefully maintained facade of sophistication. The fraud charges had finally caught up with her 3 years after Dominic's return. Federal investigators, armed with MedAI Solutions' comprehensive analysis, had uncovered decades of medical misconduct beyond the fertility scandal. Insurance fraud, falsified research data, illegal medical trials, the evidence had been overwhelming. Outside the prison gates, a modest sedan waited. Behind the wheel sat Patricia Velez, now the executive director of the Hobbs Foundation's Whistleblower Protection Program. "I didn't expect you," Carla said, sliding into the passenger seat. "The foundation assists with prisoner reintegration," Patricia replied professionally, "especially in cases involving medical fraud. We've arranged temporary housing and a position as a data entry clerk at a small import company. Nothing medical-related, of course." Carla's medical license hadn't just been revoked. It had been permanently invalidated, along with every certification and degree she'd ever earned. The investigation had revealed that even her original medical school admission had been orchestrated through her father's corruption. How are they?" Carla asked quietly as they drove. Patricia's expression remained neutral. "The Foundation's Ethics in Medicine Summit is next month. Dr. Grace Hobbs-Shin is delivering the keynote on genetic privacy rights. Her brother, Dr. Anthony Hobbs, just received the National Medal of Science for his work on preventing medical data manipulation." The words landed like physical blows. Her children, the ones she had used as pawns, had become leaders in preventing the very kind of fraud she had perpetrated. And Raymond? The name felt strange on her tongue after so many years, still serving his 20-year sentence. The gambling operation wasn't just real, it was connected to organized crime. He won't be eligible for parole for another 5 years. Raymond's attempt to blackmail Dominic had backfired spectacularly. The evidence he'd tried to use had instead revealed a complex money laundering scheme that stretched back to their college days. Gordon's arranged gambling debts had been a cover for something far more sinister. "Your father passed away last month," Patricia added, her tone softening slightly. The foundation arranged for hospice care in his final days. Gordon Wilkins had died under house arrest, his legacy in ruins. The prestigious medical center that once bore his name had been renamed after its renovation by MedAI Solutions. His groundbreaking research had been audited and largely discredited. Even his charitable contributions had been revealed as tax frauds. The sedan pulled up to a modest apartment complex in a working-class neighborhood of Worcester, far from the prestigious Boston circles Carla had once dominated. "Your probation officer will visit tomorrow," Patricia said, handing over a packet of information. "The foundation provides counseling services if you're interested." As Carla reached for the door handle, Patricia added, "They're happy, you know. All of them." Carla turned back. The twins married into good families. Grace has 2 children, a boy and a girl. Anthony and his husband are expecting their first via surrogate. Dominic and Bethany just celebrated their 10th anniversary. The foundation helps thousands of people every year. The unspoken message was clear. They had built something meaningful from the ashes of her betrayal. Across the city, in MedAI Solutions' newly constructed headquarters, Dominic Hobbs reviewed the quarterly ethics compliance reports. At 50, his hair had gained distinguished streaks of silver, but his eyes retained their sharp, analytical focus. "Dad?" Grace stood in the doorway, her young daughter, Eva, peeking around her legs. "The board meeting's about to start." Dominic smiled, opening his arms to his granddaughter. "There's my little scientist." How was the Science Museum? Amazing. Eva bounced over. Uncle Anthony showed me the new medical ethics exhibit. He said it's important to always tell the truth in medicine. That's right. Dominic met his daughter's eyes over Eva's head. They shared a moment of understanding. The next generation would be raised with the values that had been born from their family's crucible. The boardroom hummed with activity as the Hobbs Foundation's directors gathered for their quarterly meeting. Anthony's husband, Michael, a prominent bioethicist, was presenting findings from their latest investigation into fertility clinic practices. Grace's husband, David Chun, led the Foundation's legal team in implementing new medical transparency regulations. Bethany entered last, still commanding attention as MedAI's CEO. Her partnership with Dominic had transformed into a marriage that balanced personal happiness with professional drive. Together, they had built an empire dedicated to preventing others from experiencing the betrayal that had brought them together. Before we begin, Bethany announced, I'm pleased to share that the Hobbs Medical Ethics Scholarship has selected its first recipients. 20 students who demonstrated exceptional commitment to medical transparency and patient advocacy. The news brought satisfied smiles around the table. Education had become a key focus of their mission, ensuring future medical professionals understood the devastating impact of fraud and corruption. In other news, Anthony added, our AI system flagged another potential fertility fraud case in Arizona. The Foundation's legal team is already in contact with the families affected. Dominic listened with pride as his children, by choice and by blood, carried forward the mission that had emerged from his darkest hours. The twins had chosen to maintain relationships with him not out of obligation, but because they shared his commitment to justice and ethics. The meeting proceeded efficiently, each report demonstrating the growing impact of their work. The Hobbs Foundation had become a powerful force for accountability in medicine, while MedAI's solutions technology protected patient rights in hospitals worldwide. Afterward, as the family gathered for their traditional post-meeting dinner, Dominic received an automated alert. Carla's release had been processed. The notification was just one of many. Their system tracked every movement of those who had participated in medical fraud. Everything okay, Dad? Anthony asked, noticing his brief distraction. Dominic smiled at his son. Perfect. Just perfect. In a maximum security prison in Pennsylvania, Raymond Russo stared at the article on his approved tablet. Hobbs Foundation launches Global Medical Ethics Initiative. The photo showed his biological children standing proudly beside the man who had raised them, the man whose life he had tried to steal. His cellmate glanced over. Those your kids? No, Raymond replied, closing the article. They're his. The epilogue of Dominic Hobbs' story wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about legacy. The lies that had nearly destroyed him had instead sparked a revolution in medical ethics. His children carried that mission forward, protecting future generations from similar betrayals. The betrayers, Carla, Raymond, and Gordon, had reaped the consequences of their actions. Their punishments hadn't come from Dominic's direct revenge, but from the system of accountability they themselves had necessitated. Their legacy was one of cautionary tales and ruined reputations. In the end, the greatest victory wasn't in their downfall, but in the good that had risen from their treachery. The Hobbs Foundation, MedAI Solutions, and the extended family that now gathered regularly for dinner were testaments to the power of transforming pain into purpose. Justice, Dominic had learned, was best served not cold, but perpetual, an ongoing commitment to truth that echoed through generations. His grandchildren would grow up understanding the value of integrity and the price of betrayal, ensuring that the lessons of the past shaped a more ethical future. The perfect life he'd thought he had might have been a lie, but the life he'd built from its ruins was something far more valuable. It was real, earned through truth, strengthened by justice, and sustained by love that had been chosen rather than manipulated. And that was a legacy worth more than any revenge. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.